Okay. So I'm gonna hold this laptop here and we're gonna talk about Alaska.
Yay, Alaska.
We're gonna talk about Alaska today. We went on a Princess Alaska cruise for the very first time around this time last year.
May, yeah.
We were getting off the ship around Memorial Day time, and it was the trip of a lifetime.
It was great. I loved it.
The end of the trip, after we got off the ship, because the cruise was fantastic, but after we got off the ship, we had plans, we had an itinerary, and none of it went to plan. Everything went to pot.
Yeah, everything discombobulated once we got off.
The cruise was perfect and ideal, and everything after we got off the cruise was not. So, it's a year later. We never even finished the vlog series, and we've been watching a lot of Alaska cruise vlogs.
Mm-hmm. Thinking about it.
Yeah. It's got us reminiscing about our trip last year.
How great it was.
Thinking, would we do it again? Because it really was perfect and ideal.
Oh, yeah.
And
so many ways it was perfect.
Yeah. I mean, if we would do it again, how would we do it again? Because Alaska is a huge state. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of choices, a lot of things to consider. So we're going to kind of talk about that. It's basically going to be like a decision-making tree for us to decide, do we want to do Alaska next year?
And maybe it'll be thought-provoking for you.
Yeah. Maybe help you think about some things maybe you didn't think about. Maybe we'll have a different perspective than you would have. So we're just going to walk through some things, and we're going to do that decision tree style.
Okay.
So first question, would we go back to Alaska?
I absolutely would.
And I wrote down yes in a heartbeat. So absolutely I would. I spent a lot of time in Alaska during the pandemic. I was lucky enough to have some friends up there that welcomed me into their home, and I kind of fell in love with the place. Mm-hmm. It's a very outdoor place. There's a lot of outdoor activities, and part of it for me, I fell in love with the place because I got to spend a lot of time with my friends. Mm-hmm. But part of it was the state itself and the outdoor places and wide open spaces and the clean fresh air, all of the wildlife. I think they kind of aligned me as a Disney princess because I would just point out wildlife. We had some other people that came up to visit while I was there, and I was like, we have to go to Potter Marsh because we have to get them a moose. Like, we have to show them a moose. And my friend was like, there's never moose out there. We're not going to find one. We went out there and there was one. I don't know how I knew, but I was like, we have to go. I just had that feeling. So I really loved Alaska. And I didn't do a cruise when I was up there with them, but they were on the cruise with us last year. So we had a wonderful time. I would absolutely go back. Mm-hmm. It's one of those places I don't know that I could ever live there because it gets so dark in the wintertime, but the midnight sun in the summertime, I love it. And it's not too hot. The only thing about it in the summertime is the mosquitoes, but I really enjoy visiting that state.
Well, I got just a little touch of it during the cruise, and then got to stay, I think, a couple of days in Anchorage with friends, and before I came back, and I just loved my experience with Alaska.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know if she was going to like it or not, and so we didn't do a really long itinerary on the cruise, but since she enjoyed it, now we're thinking we'll probably go back, probably for a longer period of time. So, like I said, Alaska's a really big state. You don't get to see all of it on a cruise because there's what they call interior Alaska that you don't get to see on a cruise because it's landlocked. So,
but there's a lot of landlocked or ocean locked that you can't see if you're not on a cruise.
That's a very good point. So the next question in our decision tree, would you go visit Alaska on a land tour or a sea tour?
Now, if I only get to choose one, the one I would want to do next I would want to do another cruise.
Okay.
I love cruising, and seeing Alaska from that viewpoint for me was great because you can get to these places that you can't get to by road.
Yep.
I think Juneau is the state capital, and I think it's the only state capital that you can't drive to.
Right. You can only get there by air or by sea. And it's really interesting.
And that's just so cool. And I loved that. And there are several other stops that we had that are kind of similar. It'd be really hard to get there by car. but on wheels. So either fly in or cruise in.
Yep. So you would do a sea tour?
I would do a sea tour, yeah.
A lot of cruise lines, like Princess and Holland America are the two that I'm thinking of, because those are the big ones in Alaska. They will do like a land and sea tour. So they have, what are they, resorts or
Yeah.
whatever they have,
Lodges,
yes,
resorts.
lodges, thank you for the word. They have these places throughout Alaska, so if you do that first, you fly into, I think it would be Anchorage, and then they would bus or train you out to the lodge. You get to do the interior Alaska thing, and then you do your cruise, or you do it backwards. You do the cruise first, and then they take you up to the lodge. We just don't have the time for that right now.
Yeah.
Because if she goes to Alaska...
Vacation and money, if that was endless.
That's true. Yeah, PTO and vacation time, money, vacation budget, limited for us right now. And if she's going back to Alaska, I'm going with her. She's not going alone.
She's my tour guide.
So it is the limiting factor for us. We'd love to do both. I'd love to go up and like rent an RV for a month.
Oh yeah, you did that RV tour.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I would love to be able to do that. I love a driving trip.
She really loves a road trip. I really enjoyed getting to see the different part of the state, because Anchorage is very different from other parts of Alaska. And I got to see a lot of different places in Alaska when I was staying up there for 2 summers. So I feel really blessed and very lucky to have been able to see all of that. And now my goal is to show her, maybe not all of them, but a bunch of them. So, we will get there eventually, but I think next we would probably do a cruise. So if we are going to do a cruise, there's a lot of cruise lines in Alaska, Sailing Alaska. There's Princess, Holland America, like I've mentioned. There's, I think, Royal, Norwegian, Disney.
And then a lot of smaller lines.
Yeah, a lot
that
of
are ultra
luxury.
elite. Yeah.
How would you pick a cruise line?
Budget's part of it. Okay. Itinerary is part of it. I would like to cruise with either Princess or Holland, because I think they've been in Alaska the longest, and I think they have a love relationship with Alaska.
Yeah, I think they really invested in the Alaska tourism. We noticed that on our Princess cruise last year. I thought they did a spectacular job showcasing the
Alaska.
state. Yeah, that we were visiting.
Because I don't want the cruise line to take over on the vacation. When I go to Alaska, I'm going for Alaska. And, I compare it to the Emmys. Is it the Emmys? I just want the cruise line to be the supporting actor, not the star.
Yeah.
And so I want them to, excel and everything, and I want to have a superior experience. And I did on Princess. I just don't want to be on a cruise line that takes over my experience.
Yeah, so we've considered, because we're big Disney cruisers, right? So we've considered doing a Disney cruise in Alaska. One of the big, points against it for me is it's so expensive. And then one of the big things against it for her is that she likes the Disney stuff on a Disney
experience,
cruise.
yeah.
And when we're cruising the Bahamas or, the Caribbean, it's nice to have the Disney stuff, because you look outside and it's always beautiful, but like we've done it so many times now that we can focus on the Disney stuff and not feel guilty. But she's been to Alaska once, and she would want to experience Alaska stuff, and she's afraid that the Disney might distract her from the point of the trip.
And kind of maybe a little bit with Royal, because those cruise ships have so many other activities on them that I think, if you're going to rock climb, or you're going to ride the go-karts, or you're going to, do some, I think some of those things may pull me away from Alaska. And I really want to focus on Alaska when I go.
That's a good point. Yeah. And I just want to say one of the big pulls for me to Princess is the technology and the amenities. We were on the Grand Princess last year, and it was an older ship, but it was so well taken care of. It was beautiful. And the Princess Medallion is amazing technology, and it makes me want to cruise with Princess all the time because it was so convenient.
Yeah, they would track me down if I put in an order. You put in an order on your phone, but it uses that medallion to track you down. And then I know they had like giveaways and stuff in the big theater, and they knew you were present because of your medallion. And so it's not like you had to hold your hand up and wave around. It was just like a random draw based on who was in the theater. And I thought that was so cool, so awesome.
And it's like a wearable technology, but it's not obtrusive. It's not like a huge smartwatch band. They even have like jewelry type things that you can put your medallion into. We just had the free lanyard that came with the medallion.
Yeah.
But I like that it opens or unlocks your door as you approach the door. I just thought it was very nice technology.
The door greets you.
And I think with the package we got, it entered us in a raffle every time we opened our door.
Yeah.
It was weird, and I don't think we won anything.
We didn't.
But I really enjoyed the technology and having that different experience as opposed to like a C card or like a key to the world card like you get on Disney. I just really enjoyed that, and it was very convenient.
Agree.
So you mentioned itinerary as a deciding factor for you.
Yeah, because of the stops. Some of the stops I would do again, and some of the stops I wouldn't. Not that I didn't have a good time, but I would want to do something else, something different.
Okay, so I know we went to Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway. And in Juneau, with our friends, they rented a Turo car for us.
Oh my gosh, what a great day that was.
We went to Mendenhall Glacier, and we did like the hike out to Nugget Falls, and then we went to the Shrine of St. Therese, which is so stunning. And I have found that is one of the most peaceful places I've ever been. I've been there twice now, I think, and it brings me to tears every time I go.
That was
because
a great
it's
experience.
just so beautiful and peaceful and calm, and you can see whales from the shrine. Like, I just find that to be amazing.
I did. I really loved the shrine. Now, the fun thing about Mendenhall is on the ship, we found and watched the Love Boat episode that had a wedding at that glacier, and being able to see
The difference.
what it looked like 20 years ago when that episode was filmed there on Princess, and what it was like now. I mean, how nostalgic. I was able to watch that when I was a kid, and I remembered that they were there, and then we found that episode on the ship and were able to watch it and then go there that day. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool and very interesting to see how much the glacier has receded in so
Over
much time. Skagway, we did the White Pass Rail.
And I would do that again. I know for some people the train ride is a one and done, but I would absolutely do that train ride again.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Ketchikan, we did a trolley tour. And
I would go back to Ketchikan, but I wouldn't do the trolley tour again.
I would do something different in Ketchikan. I feel like there's more there than what we got to see. And I think that was a shorter port day for us anyway.
Yeah.
So I think I would, try to see something else in Ketchikan. And I know there's a lot more to see in Juneau and Skagway, but we had longer port days there, so we did get to see a whole lot more than we're talking about now. But I would like to see some other things in Ketchikan, because I really enjoyed that port, but our port time was very short. Okay, I want to talk about port days, because before we ever sailed Alaska, before we ever cruised Alaska, before we ever booked an Alaska cruise, we had talked about it for years, and you were always hesitant, because every itinerary, it looks like you get on the ship in Vancouver, and you might have a sea day getting up to Alaska, and then you have port, and then you might have a sea day before you get off, but you might not, and then you just get off the ship. And I know that always concerned you.
Yeah. Because I was so tired from work, and I really want to be awake and energized, and somehow for me, because of my work and sometimes it's emotionally taxing for me, I just kind of go into shutdown mode. I think, I'm done with work for a period of time, and then I kind of conk out for a day or two until I come alive. And I feel like if I didn't have that first sea day, I might sleep through some of the vacation, and I don't want to do that.
And some of those ports, on the itinerary are not actually ports that you get off at. They might be a glacier
Right.
viewing day, so it might be Glacier Bay, it might be something like, what is it, Hubbard Glacier that
Yeah.
you get to see, but you don't get off the ship. So, it might look a little bit different. It takes a little bit more research to look into it to see what is this port do we actually get off. And some of those port days are short
Yeah.
because they have
Yeah.
to sail to the next port. So, it's different than we had assumed.
And they don't just like go in at full speed. I mean, there's like no wake coming off of that ship. So it's not, it may not be a far distance, but they're not moving at a breakneck speed on that ship.
Yeah, and that's another really good point. And I don't even have this on our list, but I do want to mention I thought it was a very smooth cruise, and only on the last night did we feel the ship rocking. So I thought it was very interesting how we're very close to the Arctic Circle. This is North Pacific Ocean, and it was so smooth. Okay, so can we talk about embarkation ports, because this is one of the big deciding factors for people.
Yeah.
So there is such a thing as a closed loop cruise, meaning you get on and off in the same port. So you might embark in Vancouver, and then the ship goes up to Alaska, sails back to Vancouver, so you get off in the same port. This is important for things like booking flights. So where are you flying to, and then where are you flying home from? Because if it's a closed loop port, you can buy a round trip plane ticket. If you get on in one port and then you get off in a different port like we did, we had to fly from Orlando to Vancouver, and then we had to fly from Anchorage
Back
to home. So it does make a difference. Does that make a significant difference to you?
To me, it may be a financial decision. So if it's a real expensive flight, then you may have to change your itinerary. But I think the itinerary is going to be the most important thing, unless you're thinking, oh, I really want to go, to Vancouver, but I can't do, Vancouver and then Anchorage like we did. So you might just do a closed loop to Vancouver. But then it changes your itinerary depending on if it's a closed loop or not.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't get to see quite as much, because if it's the same length of time that you're on the ship can't go as far north, so you might get to see a little bit less before the ship has to turn around and go back. I do want to say we went to Vancouver, and I'm so glad we flew in a couple of days ahead of time, because coming from Florida, the time change was brutal. But I adored Vancouver.
I did too.
I could never live there because it's a city, it's very urban. But it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Every vlog that I have watched last year and this year, that was in Vancouver around this time, I gather Vancouver in May is just stunning. We went and it was warm and sunny, and everybody was so friendly, and it was the stereotypical, like, Canadians are very kind.
Yeah.
And I loved it. There were coffee shops everywhere. We got to do the hop on hop off bus tour. I would do that again.
Yeah, I would too.
It was amazing. I could spend a whole week in Vancouver.
I loved that library.
Yeah.
We did a coffee drinking tour.
Yeah, we were wired. We woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
the day of embarkation. And
So we slept in.
yeah, well, 4 a.m. Vancouver time, and I think it's 3 or 4 hours difference from here. So we woke up, and we can't get on the ship. We can't go anywhere. I mean, we don't need to check out yet. We are not going to the port yet. I think our port arrival time was like 10 a.m. So we had a lot of time to kill. So we, walked around. We got breakfast, and we tried 3 or 4 different coffee shops that were 1 block away from our hotel. It was amazing. And I think somebody left a comment on our Embarkation Day video. Like, I can't wait to see if you make the ship or not, because you're screwing around. We were, but we had so much time to kill because of the time we woke up.
Yeah.
But I loved Vancouver. The only thing was the time change was so brutal.
Yeah. And so I would definitely want to have that day or two before, especially if we got to go back to Vancouver, because I loved that city.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so many things that I love were available to me. I really like craft beer and craft spirits. We got to try some of those in Vancouver. I like visiting Stanley Park. That was really fun. We did the hop on, hop off bus tour. We got to take pictures of like outside stuff. We got to drink coffee and eat sushi, and it was walkable.
It was a great day, couple of days. And I would absolutely do Vancouver again.
I would too. I loved it. Some other embarkation ports are Seattle and Anchorage. I've been to Anchorage. You could spend a lot of time in Anchorage. I've been to Seattle, but that was a very long time ago. So you could spend some time there. And I think even some cruises with very long itineraries leave out of, is it San Francisco?
Yeah, San Francisco or LA or Victoria, British Columbia,
yeah.
maybe. So there are different itinerary starting points, and so when you search, I would think about where you want to fly in and out of, how you're going to get there, and then of course that itinerary.
Is season important to you? Because there are like what they call shoulder seasons, and the Alaska cruising season is in the summertime, basically May to September. So early May and late September are what they call the shoulder seasons. And we sailed in May.
Early shoulder.
It was kind of early in the season. And I know you've said you would like to see Alaska during the different seasons.
I would like to go mid-season and at the end so you can see different things. It was pointed out to us, that in the early part of the season like that, the wildlife is just kind of waking up and coming out of hibernation. So there's some things that you may not see, that may not be as visible. And we certainly experienced that. Now, I can't say I saw a whole lot last year anyway, but I enjoyed what I did see.
She's having some eye operations, which are improving her vision. And so I think we have to go back to Alaska at least once and do what we did all over again so she can actually see it this time, because she went as a basically blind person. I knew her vision was bad. I didn't know it was this bad until she started saying, "Oh, I can see that." You couldn't see that before? I mean, that's kind of frightening. But, I mean, once we got home and we started talking about it a little bit more, I'd ask her, like, "Did you see that?" And we were, rewatching the vlogs that I had made, and she'd say, "I couldn't see that real time because it moved too fast and I can't see it."
Yeah.
So I'm hoping if we go again in the next year or two, you'll be able to see the same things that I can see. Because there is some wildlife. And I think, middle of the season you get to see, or experience the midnight sun, which I love because I love sunshine. I know a lot of people are very light sleepers, can't sleep when it's light out. I can. We kept the curtains in our window open all the time.
We had floor to ceiling, wall to wall.
And we got to, sleep with the midnight sun for us. And of course it wasn't midnight sun. The sun did go down because it was May.
It went down to about 11.
So it was about a month away from like the summer solstice in June. But, we got to experience that, and I thought it was
great.
It was great. I had a wonderful time. It was a totally magical vacation. So we talked a little bit about the ports that we've been to, Juneau, Skagway. I want to talk a little bit about Whittier, because Whittier is the Anchorage adjacent port that our cruise got off in. There's very little there. It is just a port.
Like 600 people live there.
With a train station, and the train goes through like the one-way tunnel. It's very cool, but there's not a whole lot to experience in Whittier. If I could do it all over again, I would take her to Seward, because I have been to Seward a couple of times and I love Seward. I think it's great. There's a brewing company there that I have a t-shirt from because I enjoyed it so much. I think she would love it. And there's a sea life center, like an aquarium type thing in Seward. So I'd like to take her there. And I know some ships, I think Norwegian does like disembarkation in Seward. So I think that would be cool. Some other ports we've never been to. I've never been to Icy Strait Point.
I'd like to go there.
Haines.
I don't know much about Haines, but it would be different. So I'd like to go there and see it.
I'd like to go to Haines because it's so close to Skagway, but you can't really get there from Skagway except by air or by boat. And then like Sitka and Wrangell, like I've never been to either of those either. So I'd like to see all of these just because I think every small town in Alaska has its own flavor, culture.
Yeah.
And it's very cool to get to experience all of those different small towns.
Well, that was fast. You're quick.
And we're back. The camera battery was dying. So we're going to finish this up by talking about packing, because packing for Alaska is slightly different than packing for a summer in the Caribbean.
Yeah, yeah.
You still need sunscreen.
But you also need bug spray.
Yeah, you can pack a bathing suit. A lot of the ships, I think most of, not all of the ships have a pool, a hot tub for you to swim in. The ship we were on had an indoor pool. So they had the outdoor pool and the indoor pool. I think it was called the solarium, wasn't it? And it was very nice. We never got in the pool, but you can if you want to.
We saw people in the pool.
I would suggest taking at least one pair of shorts. At least one outfit for weather between 70 and 90 degrees. Whatever that means to be comfortable for you. Because in Alaska, it can be anywhere between 40 and 90 degrees on any given day. And you're not going to know what it's going to be until you get a little bit closer and you can start looking at the weather forecast for the next week. But I have experienced both, being up in Alaska for a couple of summers. So it could be cold and damp and rainy. It could be hot and sunny and beautiful.
And it may start one way in the morning, be something else at noon, and then something again different in the afternoon.
Yes. So a lot of Alaska packing videos will tell you that layers are essential, and they are not being facetious. They mean it. Wear thin layers that are comfortable for you. Because I wore like a camisole and then a long sleeve thermal type t-shirt and then a short sleeve t-shirt and then a sweatshirt, a waterproof jacket. I think a coat is a must. I think it's better if that coat is warm and insulated, and it's best if that warm insulated coat is also waterproof. So I think you've got to have a waterproof layer, and if it's not the same coat, then it's something that you can put on top of it. Those jackets that zip inside of each other, so you've got the puffy down coat with the waterproof. I think they're ski coats.
Yeah.
And they're really nice because you can wear just the layer you need or both at the same time if necessary. And I think it's a must to have a warm coat on an Alaska cruise, because especially if you're doing glacier viewing, glaciers work like air conditioners. So a glacier, if you don't know, is a gigantic river of compact ice.
Frozen water.
Yeah. So
frozen river.
It's ice that has been compacted over thousands of years, and it's very cold to be near it. And the wind that blows across the glacier is frigid because it's basically acting as a gigantic air conditioner for the outside. And if it's damp, kind of rainy like it was on our Glacier Bay day, it can be very cold.
It makes it really seem chilly.
Yeah, it will chill you to the bone.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, especially if you're planning on being outside taking pictures, we spend a lot of time inside just viewing glaciers from
the window
because we were able to do that. We had a beautiful room with a beautiful floor to ceiling picture window, and we got to experience a lot of Alaska from our stateroom, which was fantastic. So, it kind of depends on how you're going to experience it, but I definitely think a warm, waterproof coat is a must. And I also think boots, hiking shoes, some kind of shoe footwear that you can get dirty, because as I mentioned before, I think of Alaska as an outdoor state. You do a lot of outdoor activities, and a lot of them include being in the mud and the dirt, and I just think it's dirty. And I don't want that to sound, like a mark against the state. I think it's wonderful to be outside, but the Alaska dirt just gets everywhere. Yeah. So I would suggest having hiking boots or hiking shoes, preferably waterproof, again, something that's going to keep your feet warm, because for me personally, when my feet get cold, I'm done. I'm cold and I'm cranky and I just want to go home. So having warm, waterproof shoes that you can wear
is a must
in all terrains, ice or muddy trails.
And I would say that if you're packing your shoes, it should be not a new pair. It should be a pair that's trusted, that's not going to blister your feet, walking over uneven surfaces that are kind of broke in, that you're comfortable in walking in on that kind of surface.
Not at the end of their life, but you've worn them before and they don't make your feet uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I would suggest packing them, and I like what I did with my shoes is I put one hiking boot in like a old used Walmart plastic bag.
Okay.
Because they do get dirty. I don't want to get the dirt in my stateroom, and then around the ship, I'm wearing comfortable, lightweight sneakers because you're not going to get dirty on the ship. But I wore those hiking boots when I got off of the ship in the ports of call, and then once we got back to the stateroom, I put them immediately back in those plastic bags to keep the room from getting dirty.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's necessary to have something that you don't mind getting dirty, something that's intended for that purpose. Rain boots are good, but I think waterproof hiking boots are better, just for the ports of call. And then you can wear pretty clothes, pretty shoes on board.
I found the ship was pretty casual, and they do have some more formal nights, but I felt like there were a lot of people that were in slacks or trousers or jeans,
Nice
jeans, and had on what I would call like business casual tops and not pack a lot of fancy clothes.
Yeah. And I didn't pack a whole lot of stuff for this cruise that I did not wear.
Yeah.
I did pack to attend a wedding after the cruise that I ended up not attending. But I think if I were to do it all over again, I would pack exactly what I packed before. Lots of jeans, t-shirts, sweatshirts, thick socks, lots of layers that you can, stack on top of each other and take off if you get warm throughout the day, which I did. But
I had a cheap puffer coat that I had got on sale. I had my Western duster that kept me really warm.
And dry.
Yeah. So I was really happy with what I packed as well. And I didn't feel like I overpacked because I knew I was going to buy some t-shirts. So I didn't take a whole lot of shirts. I just had some jeans in case I got dirty. And, of course, socks and gloves. And I was really happy with how we packed.
I am glad we took a formal outfit. We got some really nice pictures of the two of us.
They did
like
a
with
really
our whole
good job.
cruising party, because we did travel with some friends. We had got some really wonderful pictures taken. So you can dress up. I think they do kind of encourage formal night when it is formal night. You don't have to, I don't think. You could probably get away with not, but I don't think they'll let you in the dining room. But
I got a really nice headshot.
She really did.
A really nice professional shot.
We had some really wonderful photographers on our cruise, and I've had some, mediocre experiences with cruise ship photographers. But this sailing was fantastic. We got some really wonderful pictures of her. One of them she's using as a headshot for work. I mean, we got a great picture of the two of us that I'd like to print out and, put in a frame on the wall somewhere. So I would encourage you to, take clothes that you want to see yourself in pictures in, because you are going to take a lot of pictures when you go to Alaska and have people take pictures of you.
Yeah.
So,
and I think with the Princess Premier package, some of those pictures you're for sure going to get at no extra charge.
any final thoughts about traveling to Alaska?
I have one other question for you. If you were going to travel to Alaska again on a ship, would you get another floor-to-ceiling window like we did the last time if it was available? Would you just want a porthole, or would you prefer to have a veranda room?
This is going to be really unpopular because a lot of people say you have to have a veranda when you sail Alaska. And I think it depends a lot on how you cruise. If you've never cruised before, it's a lot of it's going to depend on your personal budget. I know myself, and I've cruised a lot, and I know that even if I have a veranda, I'm not going to be on it. If I'm going to be outside, I'm going to be on a public deck. The stateroom we were in was on the top deck, so getting to a veranda, which is like the outside deck, was 25 steps away.
Yeah.
I like having a warm stateroom. And to me, having a veranda means you're opening the door to go outside, you're letting the warm air in the stateroom out, because especially on like Glacier Bay Day, because that's when we probably would have used the veranda the most. We were inside because it was cold and it was kind of damp. So we didn't, we were either in the stateroom or we were at the coffee shop downstairs. I think we were actually sitting in the vines.
You're
like,
sitting in the wine bar.
looking out the windows because like we had a beautiful view, and I had a wonderful time experiencing that. So knowing myself, I would get the floor to ceiling windows again. I love natural light. I love sunlight. If I can't have the picture window like we had, or the floor to ceiling window like we had before, I would settle for just a regular ocean view stateroom and be perfectly content. But I don't need a veranda because I don't think I'm going to use it.
And I have the same fear. I of course live in Florida. I don't mind the heat. I'll go out and work in the heat even in the mornings until it gets noontime. But I did not want to be cold in the room. And I think if you look back at some of our vlogs, you can tell the first pass through that outdoor area, I saw those blankets sitting there. I snatched a couple of those blankets because I want to just be cozy and warm in the room.
I will give credit to our stateroom host. We did pick up those blankets from like the pool deck because they did movie Under the Stars or something like that. And so we just picked up a couple of blankets and took them to our room. And our stateroom host let us keep them the entire sailing. They never took them away from us. They even made our bed with those blankets on them. And they were like the buffalo check print. Yeah. And so we just had these really cozy looking beds to sleep in with extra blankets.
I didn't have to take, because I worried about taking a blanket, but I'd seen where other cruisers said that those blankets are available on pretty much every cruise line. And I didn't want to bring the blanket home because we certainly have blankets here. And I don't want to steal something that's not mine,
and we don't need it,
and I don't need another blanket, but I wanted one
to use it while we were on the ship.
It was great.
It really was. It was, oh gosh, it was so fabulous.
Yeah,
had a great time. So we just wanted to kind of like talk about Alaska because we're dreaming. We're trying to plan vacations for the next few years, looking into the future, trying to plan what do we want to do. We're looking at itineraries. We've been watching a lot of Alaska cruise vlogs. So, we're dreaming, so you can dream along with us. And we wanted to kind of walk through this process with you because it's helping us plan our future trip.
To think about it.
If we go.
And budget for it.
Right. Yeah. So, I think it's important to plan far ahead if you can. I think most of the time, the earlier you book, the less money you pay. Mm-hmm. I know Princess was having a really spectacular deal over Memorial Day. So I'm really curious to see if they do something special over like 4th of July.
Or 4th of July, Labor Day, and it always Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, Christmas Day sales.
Yeah, and for flights too.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think we're done talking about Alaska. I have had a wonderful time talking about this with you, but we've chattered long enough. Let us know if you have any questions. But that's going to be it from us for today.
And I will see you real soon.
Bye, everybody.